Building simple CRUD APIs with Spring Boot is just the start. But when you step into real-world engineering, you quickly realize that production systems demand much more. Surviving real traffic, handling unexpected failures, and ensuring long-term maintainability are challenges every serious Java developer faces. In this video, we'll explore 9 essential Spring Boot patterns that transform your code from classroom projects into robust, production-ready systems. Whether you're aiming to level up your backend skills or preparing for larger team projects, these patterns are your foundation for success. Most tutorials teach you how to make things work, but very few focus on making systems reliable and maintainable. This is the gap many developers struggle with when moving from learning projects to real-world engineering. Understanding production-ready patterns is what separates a good developer from a great one. These patterns help you build systems that are easier to test, maintain, and scale. Let's dive into each pattern and see how they can help you become a stronger backend developer. First pattern is using a proper layered architecture. Many developers know about the controller, service, and repository layers, but often mix business logic, database logic, and request handling in the same class. This quickly becomes unmanageable as your application grows. A clean separation of responsibilities means your controller handles HTTP requests, the service contains business logic, and the repository manages database operations. This structure makes your code easier to test, maintain, and scale, especially in larger teams. Let's look at a quick example. Your UserController handles HTTP requests and delegates to the UserService, which contains the business logic. The UserService then calls the UserRepository for database operations. This separation ensures that each class has a single responsibility, making your codebase much cleaner and easier to manage as your application grows. A common beginner mistake is scattering try-catch blocks everywhere. This makes your code noisy and inconsistent. Instead, use global exception handling with at-rest controller advice. This approach keeps your business logic clean, ensures consistent API responses, and makes debugging much easier. When something goes wrong, your system fails gracefully instead of crashing unpredictably. With a global exception handler, you define how your application responds to errors in one place. For example, you can catch RuntimeExceptions and return a clear, consistent error message to the client. This not only improves your API design, but also makes troubleshooting much simpler when things go wrong in production. Directly returning entity objects from your APIs is risky. Entities are meant for the database layer, while APIs serve the client layer. Mixing these can lead to accidental data exposure in tightly coupled systems. Instead, use data transfer objects (DTOs) to control exactly what data is sent to the client, hiding sensitive fields and keeping your API stable even if your database changes. A DTO is a simple class that only contains the fields you want to expose. For example, a user DTO might only have a name and email, leaving out internal or sensitive information. You then map your entity to the DTO before returning it in your API response. This pattern is especially important in large applications where data privacy and API stability are critical. Hardcoding database URLs and secrets is a recipe for disaster. Spring Boot profiles let you manage different configurations for development, testing, staging, and production environments. By using separate property files and activating the right profile, you keep your environments isolated and your secrets safe. This makes deploying and maintaining your application much smoother. For example, you might have application dev properties for your local setup and application prod properties for production. By switching profiles, you can easily change database connections, API keys, and other settings without touching your code. This pattern is essential for any real-world application that moves across different environments. System out println is not real logging. In production, logs are your lifeline for debugging and monitoring. Use SLF4J with structured logging to capture important events, errors, and application behavior. Good logs help you track failures, monitor performance, and reduce troubleshooting time. Without proper logging, finding and fixing issues becomes a guessing game. With SLF4J, you can log important actions like fetching a user or catching an error. For example, log when a user is fetched by ID, and log an error if the user isn't found. This gives you a clear trail of what happened, making it much easier to diagnose and resolve issues in production. Never trust incoming user data. Input validation is your first line of defense against bad data and security vulnerabilities. Use annotations like @blank and email to ensure only valid data enters your system. This prevents runtime errors, improves API quality, and strengthens your application's security. For example, when creating a user, validate the input with valid annotations in your controller. If the data doesn't meet your requirements, the request is rejected before it reaches your business logic. This simple step protects your backend from a wide range of issues and keeps your data clean. Real applications often perform multiple database operations together. If one operation fails, you risk ending up with inconsistent data. That's why transaction management is critical. By using it transactional, you ensure that either all operations succeed or everything is rolled back, protecting your database from partial updates. Imagine creating a user and their profile in one operation. If saving the profile fails, the user creation is rolled back automatically. This is especially important in critical systems like payments, order processing, and inventory management, where data integrity is non-negotiable. Repeated database queries can slow down your application. Caching stores frequently accessed data, reducing unnecessary database calls and speeding up response times. Use annotations like a cacheable to enable caching for methods that fetch data often. This pattern is key for scaling your application and improving user experience. For example, caching user lookups means you don't hit the database every time someone requests user information. This not only improves performance but also reduces costs and makes your application more responsive, especially under heavy load. Security is not optional. Every public API should have proper authentication and authorization. With Spring Security, you can easily set up basic security to protect your endpoints from unauthorized access, data leaks, and common attacks. Even internal systems need robust protection to prevent abuse. A basic Spring Security setup disables CSRF for APIs, allows public access to certain endpoints, and requires authentication for everything else. This simple configuration goes a long way in protecting your application from unauthorized access and abuse, keeping your data and users safe. When you combine these 9 patterns, your application becomes more maintainable, easier to scale, more secure, and much easier to debug. This is the difference between just writing code and building systems that can handle real-world pressure. Mastering these patterns early sets you apart from most backend developers. Learning Spring Boot annotations is only the beginning. The real growth happens when you understand how production systems behave under stress. Most developers can build CRUD APIs, but few can design applications that remain stable, maintainable, and scalable over time. These patterns are your toolkit for building real systems. Mastering these patterns isn't just about writing better code, it's about thinking differently. You'll start to anticipate problems before they happen and design solutions that stand the test of time. This mindset is what truly makes someone production ready and valuable in any engineering team. Let's quickly recap the 9 patterns. 1. Use layered architecture. 2. Centralize exception handling. 3. Never expose entities directly. 4. Manage configurations with profiles. 5. Use real logging. 6. Validate everything. 7. Use transactions. 8. Add caching. And 9. Secure your APIs. Each pattern addresses a specific pain point in production systems. Many developers fall into common traps, mixing logic layers, exposing entities, skipping validation, or ignoring security. These shortcuts might work for small projects but cause major headaches in production. By following these patterns, you avoid these pitfalls and build systems that last. These patterns aren't just theory, they have a real impact on your daily work. You'll spend less time debugging, your team will collaborate more smoothly, and your users will enjoy a more reliable experience. Production-ready code is the foundation of every successful software product. The world of backend development is always evolving. Stay curious, keep learning, and regularly review your code for these patterns. As you gain experience, you'll find even more ways to refine and improve your systems, making you an invaluable asset to any team. Start applying these patterns in your next project. Even if you're working on a small app, practicing these habits will prepare you for larger, more complex systems. Over time, these best practices will become second nature, and your code quality will improve dramatically. Being production-ready isn't just about tools and frameworks, it's about a mindset. Think ahead, plan for failures, and always prioritize maintainability and security. This approach will set you apart and help you build systems that stand the test of time. Thanks for joining this deep dive into production-ready Spring Boot patterns. Remember, mastering these patterns is a journey, not a destination. Keep practicing, stay curious, and you'll soon find yourself building systems that are not just functional, but truly robust and reliable. See you in the next story.